Your journey has been an interesting one up to here. You've questioned so much more than those around you. You've even questioned yourself as to how you could have grown into these thoughts. Am I crazy? When did I begin to think differently? Why do people in general appear so limited in their thought process? Rest assured, you are not alone. The world is slowly waking up to what you already know inside, yet can't quite verbalize. Welcome to the Spiritual Dope Podcast, the show that answers the questions you never even knew to ask, but needed the answers to. Questions about you, this world, the people in it. Most importantly, how do I proceed now moving forward? We don't claim to have all the answers, but we sure do love living in the question. Time for another hit of Spiritual Dope with your host, Brandon Henley. Let's get right into today's episode.
Hey there, Spiritual Dope. I'm on here today with Devin and Tamara of the Align and Rise podcast, and they are here to empower spiritual beings to tap into their fullest potential. They share memories and experiences to inspire and uplift you. Remember, you are authentic, unique, and there's only one you. They are two women who love to chat about all the in-depth experiences, opportunities, and growth that they have navigated throughout their way. They love life, growing, and they love to hear other people's perspectives. So, uh, Devin, Tamara, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
We're super excited. Thank you. This
Right.
is our very first interview on another podcast. We're usually the ones doing the interviewing, so this is really exciting.
Well, yeah, right. Well, you had me on, and that was part of the conversation, and I think that there was I said, hey, how can I support you guys, right? And you were like, go big or go home. It wasn't exactly like that, but it was real close. And you're like, you know what? Okay,
It probably was.
Let's I was, what if we were on your podcast? Like, hell yeah, right? So it's kind of a no-brainer. So thanks for being on. This is actually my first one where I've interviewed two people simultaneously as a unit. Got Align and Rise here. So I'd be interested to hear your response here. One of the ways that I look at this whole thing that we're doing, right? We're sending an amplified communication out to the universe, as it were, and we ourselves are all vessels of creative source energy, whatever, right? We express that throughout whatever we're doing, and sometimes the answers and conversation that we have, it's going to be heard by somebody on the other end that's just like, wow, I really needed that today, right? And my question to the both of you is, what is that message that's coming through you today that you need to share with the universe?
We're both looking at each other like, you start. No, you start.
Yeah. Usually I like to let Tamara talk first.
It always just throws me in the spotlight. I think honestly for us, like, we've had so many incredible opportunities come up on this journey of growth, and we could have thrown the towel in 100 times. But recognizing that we are here for something bigger and we were created with a purpose, we've understood throwing in the towel is not an option. We've learned that we are here to serve others, and we were given this opportunity to start podcasting and being able to serve others through that. And I think the biggest message is honestly just to hear what's on your heart and understand that that is placed there specifically for you as an individual. Nobody else gets that dream that you have on your heart, and just to chase it and to go after it with as much love and tenacity and enthusiasm as possible. And it's going to feel hard and it's going to feel tough, but you just have to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes, like, I think that in that space as well, when you're going through stuff, sometimes it feels like the same stuff kind of repeat. It's like a term that I heard was rinse and repeat. And those are like lessons in life that we get to go through in order to get to the next place where you get to do something different, another rinse and repeat until you learn from that. And what I feel is that it's really nice to be able to, excuse me, get a cough in my throat, is to have that with someone else where that person can
Mhm.
be there for you, recognize things, and very lovingly bring that to you. I just got like that frog in my throat at like the
Mhm.
worst time. It was like a tickle. I don't know why.
There,
Excuse
there's
me.
never a good time for a frog in the throat. Let's be clear there. So
Well, it's like literally, it's like feels like it's going into my left eye right now. Oh,
it's a
anyways.
it's a crazy frog.
Ah, yes. Anyways, so
We're
that's the
we're gonna
other
be
thing.
here. Yeah, we're gonna be here to help you recover. Um, that's gonna be
Yeah,
the
it's
first thing we're
okay.
here
Deep
for.
breath.
So I enjoy, the idea that we're here for a bigger purpose. We can satisfy a number of our own personal needs and even our family needs, and still it seems kind of like we're not giving all that we've got. Right, we're not feeling as though uh, we're contributing. I think that what you're talking about is the idea of contributing to the greater good or the whole, and in a way that you're doing it that's being led by the heart. It's kind of what I'm getting from the both of you, and then the idea too
Mhm.
that being able to do it with each other, the way that you two are, and having that kind of support mechanism. Uh, and I think it was Devin you were talking about, being able to, basically call somebody out on their bullshit, but lovingly, or vice versa,
Yes.
or right, be like, hey, how do we,
Mhm.
I see that you're, sometimes somebody doesn't respond to, like, I see that you're struggling, how can I help? Sometimes it's got to be, done in another way, but still from a place from the heart. And it sounds like that's
Mhm.
what the two of you have found with each other, and you're working, you're scaling that by doing your podcast. Is that fair?
Yeah. I love
Yeah,
that. Like
absolutely.
it's called
And
like
it's been
heart
really
led.
cool.
Heart led.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have realized we tried one podcast having like kind of a guideline and a script. I feel like it was a little bit of a disaster. And we have realized that intuitive, that's us. We just follow our heart and we listen to our gut. That's what we speak from. We don't have a script, we don't have questions. Even the interviews that we've done have all just been intuitive and heart led, and that feels so good. And I think that's really helped our relationship, where we've come together to have that piece to lean on one another, and to call each other out on those things. And it's honestly like, I can't hide anything from Devin. I've tried. And she's like, okay, like, you're not doing this. Tell me what's going on. It's like the floodgates open. And then we just have this, like, yes, that's how I'm feeling. I couldn't put it into words, and you felt it and you figured it out. And just having this place of zero judgment, of complete just love, just knowing that it doesn't matter what we're going through, we're always going to get through it together. And it's been really cool to have this platform podcasting together, because we get to share those experiences with other people and serve them while we grow at the same time, and then share that story of growth. And it's just really been the coolest experience.
Sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
I would call it like acceptance in action,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you two have found, a friendship, a partnership where it's, you accept each other for who you are and what you're going through, and you're helping each other forward, in a supportive manner, towards your dreams, right? You two have, you put this podcast together. We were talking a little bit before we got going here, how there's been some stumbling blocks, in what it is that you're doing, which I want to get to. But what I wanted to really hit on first is like, all right, for me, this is my third podcast, right? My first one was on fatherhood, which was cool, noble endeavor. Second one was on, prosperity, law of attraction type stuff, also great. But then I was like, fuck it, like I'm really just kind of hiding behind this curtain of, like this, Wizard of Oz style, where like I'm not really talking about what's on my heart, which is spirituality, and leaning into that. And since I've done that, it's been awesome, right? So my question to you is, what made you two decide spirituality was your kind of lean in and go forward thing, and let's talk about how you found yourselves there.
That's going to be different. Like that's very, that's looks so different. I would like to, I would like to lead this one, Tamara, because I think this actually has
I
to
would
do.
love for you to lead it.
I think this actually like my spirituality and how I have found so much love and acceptance from Tamara. So like to kind of give you the backstory, Tamara and I went to youth group together for years in high school. Years, I say like two. I was only in Creston for 2 years when and started going to church, and Tamara joined, and she's younger than
It
me.
felt like a long
Yeah, she's younger than me, and we were going, and so we were like very much like we got called like holy rollers and stuff. We were part of the Pentecostal church. We were called a lot of things, and but we found like community, which was great. And then I got married really young at 21, had 4 kids, ended up separating from my ex, and I've been separated now for 6 years. Lost God, just completely dropped God in every way. Don't talk to me about him. I'm never setting foot in another church. I felt very hurt, very betrayed from just like everything that went on in the relationship that I left. And in that time, Tamara started reaching out to me through Beachbody, and we kind of started talking. And then I joined eventually under her, and so we started having more of a relationship and bringing up our friendship from the past. And what I had found was, as I was journeying through, like both of us, I would say really our spiritual journey both started is about 6 years ago for both of us, where there was like this right like a hard line, like you were talking about line, and that's been your thing lately, Tamara, is like line in the sand. This was like a hard line for both of us, very different places, but a hard line. And we started kind of growing, and probably 2 years without each other of just growth, and then we really started stepping into each other's life. What I had found was going from the state of like I was very devout to church and everything for a long time, and then completely losing myself to all of it. Like I went down to the very bottom of the bottom with that. Like I felt very lost, felt alone, didn't know what I was doing, knew that I needed spirituality on some level. And I just didn't know what that was going to look like because I had lost all of my faith. And through all of everything that I have been through, Tamara has been there and held my hand, watched me cry, loved me, never judged me. She was going to church. She never judged me. There was not a single time that, and maybe she did, but she let it go, right? If she did have any judgments, but she was there. She loved me, and that created open space and gave me grace, gave me forgiveness to realize that Tamara was like the example of what a person going to church should look like. And it let me, not that I'm going back to church, not that I'm not doing that. I found my own spirituality in just believing that God is, or the universe, or the source energy, whatever you want to call it, is around us all the time. But it allowed me to get some forgiveness for myself and for the people around me because of the scars that were there when I left my relationship. So for me, spirituality is more than just finding it within yourself. It's like also the other people that are around you that get to support you and love you and love like Jesus loved, right? Like that's what Tamara, I mean, this is just Tamara, right? This is one person. I've had other people in my life who are very spiritual in different ways, and we're just all connected. And that's spirituality to me, is like spirituality doesn't see any hard lines of like you're Jehovah's Witness, you're Mormon, you're Pentecostal, you're Catholic. It should never see that. It should just be like we are one, we are connected, and we need to love each other, period.
I like it. It really sounds like the 6 year journey for you, and kind of this loss of spirituality, which I do want to dig into that a little bit. I love how you guys. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Beachbody, MLM, yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you guys reconnected through like an MLM, right? Like you always hear horror stories, but this sounds like a good one. Um, and you know,
It
so
was really funny because I sent the worst messages back then.
no doubt, right? I mean, I think
Like
everybody
cringy.
does.
I mean, that's how you learn. And
Absolutely, that's right. That's part of the path. And trust me, I know, right? You're just like, hey, this is what you're supposed to say. Sure, I'll say this to everybody. You should buy my shit. You'd be a great salesperson. Anyways,
yeah.
you'd be great at this. Um, so Tamara, let's hear a little bit on your side, and then we can kind of unpack some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Devin was saying, we both grew up in the Pentecostal church. Like I went to, I think it was called like Wee School or something. It was like church before kindergarten, preschool basically, but in a church. So like my grandma grew up in the Pentecostal church. My aunts, uncles on my mom's side of the family, all very like spiritual. And that was there. We prayed, all of the things. And of course, like had my years through my teen years where I struggled and all of the things. But really the last 6 years for sure, coming up 7. So my youngest, after he was born, I struggled and hit rock bottom with postpartum, the worst depression and anxiety I've ever experienced in my whole entire life. And for me, I leaned in so hard to my faith and my relationship with God, just becoming closer with him, praying, really just leaning on family and reaching out to those family members who were, Christian in my family, who believed in faith, who believed in prayer, who believed in coming together and just like leaning on all of that. And so I just think it's really cool how around the same time frame, Dev was literally falling apart and losing her faith, and I was leaning in hard. And like how we both came together to this place where we are now. So that was really where everything kind of started for me. But it turned into not so much just like that God relationship, the heart relationship with my Heavenly Father. It was like, I didn't know who I was. I had no idea what that even looked like. I was a mom. I had these kids. I was struggling. Life sucked. I was literally surviving and just getting through my days. And I remember my son was 10 months old and I was depressed and I was binge eating and I was doing all of these things that I thought happiness was somewhere in there. And I remember just like that line in the sand, there has to be more. I need to feel more than this. Like this can't just be it for the rest of forever where I just get up and I just survive through my days and I raise my kids and I'm unhappy. And that was where I really started seeking more of a relationship inner of who I was. And I started doing that work inside, that healing work, that working through anxiety, working through the depression that I was feeling, letting go of those things, and really opening up to this whole world of like who I was as an individual. I was a mom really young and I lost that when I became a mom. I was just a mom and I was just a wife and I was just a whatever. And I didn't have this, I didn't know who I was. And so that was sort of my journey back into figuring out who I was, letting go of those people-pleasing tendencies of worrying about other people's opinions and really, truly just getting to the core of who I am. And that's sort of, this direction that I'm moving in, like, and it feels so freeing and it feels so good. And just to realize everybody has their own spiritual journey. Not one person does it look the same. And I've realized like I used to have this very narrow view of it's only the church, it's only this, it's only one way, it has to be God, it has to be. But I've realized like I love hearing like stories from Jay Shetty, love him, the whole journey of a monk, Buddhism, like everybody has this universal God that they serve. And that is love. Like Devin said, we're here to love people. And it doesn't matter where we find that love or what that looks like or feels like to each of us, because it's different. And different is beautiful.
No, I mean, look, right? Without all those differences, then it's kind of boring, right? You got the same show, almost going all the way back to the beginning when you talked about was it rinse and repeat, same stuff, right? You're going to see the same thing over and over again. There's no chance for revision or uh, something else, right? I always think about the whole idea though too of like if you know what tomorrow is going to be like, it's going to be kind of easy, right? Kind of like Groundhog's Day. You know, you do the great thing about like knowing that tomorrow is going to be the same as today. Be like, okay, well, since what, whatever today was like, I can make tomorrow better by eliminating some of the things that didn't work and doing more of the things that did, right? And as for I kind of chuckled. I mean, it's not fun, right? You found yourself in survival mode, like binge eating and everything like that, and looking for happiness in that, and of course, like sometimes you think you're happy when you're eating that ice cream, right? You're like, all right, cookies and cream, it's in. I'm happy in this moment, but like you're crying at the same time. You're like, why is this
Whole
hurt?
entire bag of chips at 3 a.m. while everyone's
Right.
sleeping.
But it
Yeah.
also sounds like you were stuck in your identity, crisis of identity. Um, you go from kind of school to being a parent. There's no time for you to discover who you are as a person, right? Because you haven't spent that time as an individual, and then now you're giving all that you are and who you are to like this family, and to your point, you're like, hey, I'm just trying to find some how can I be happy? How can I be me outside of this cog in the system, right? It sounds to me like that's kind of where you got caught, right? And then finding leaning into your spirituality. It was kind of funny you mentioned you were leaning in and you were finding your religion and Devin was losing hers, right? Is kind of what was going on, but at the same time you two were able to grab hold of each other again and just say, hey, Tamara, for you, it was like, um, the more I dig into this, the more I'm finding my faith. And Devin, for you, you were like, the further I get away from it, the more that I find that I need it, and finding what worked for you. You guys figured that out. Sounds like kind of together, right? And as you're talking, Tamara, it sounds to me also like it's liberating to be connected to spirit, right? Connected to whatever that looks like for you. And as you're saying, like everybody's journey is going to be a little different. I know that after I kind of went through my own awakening experience, I'm like, this is how it's going to be for you, and this is how it's going to be, and then you're going to go up against like your journey, and and then when you trip over this hole in the ground, this is where you're going to be. I know exactly where you are on the map, right? And I can't, right? Because your journey is going to be, like you said, 100% your own. So you two, you lost it, you pulled it back together, and now that like you've kind of pulled it back together, you've got this platform. What's your intent with it now, kind of going forward, and like what are some of the challenges that you're having?
Tamara, do you want me to talk?
Now, I just feel like I wanted to touch on one more thing, and this basically led to it. So, this whole like parenting thing, Devin has really helped me realize, like, in that whole losing your identity and finding yourself. And like, I still have these moments where I'm like, my kids need me all the time. And Devin's like, they are not going to die when you're doing the things that you want to do. So this has been like a really good lesson for me, but we're a busy family and my kids are doing all the things and I'm running here and I'm doing this. And like, I feel like this might not come out right, but like they depend on me. It's already not coming out right. Maybe I want them to depend on me more than they actually do. Maybe that's it. That feels really shitty to say.
I mean, look, I mean, it's out there, right? I mean, and that's part of just saying, all right, well, it's a work in progress, right? It's like identifying that. I mean, like, is that true? Right? It's just kind of one of those things that you can kind of go through as an exercise. Be like, I don't know. Not for nothing,
Yeah.
Tamara, but nobody's knocked on your door in like a half hour.
I know, right? They're fine. They're thriving downstairs right
Bastards.
now. So yeah, just like little things. We were even in a podcast today, and then my son needed me, and I was like, Dev, like my kiddo needs me, and we were gonna meet up in podcast, and I like texted her, and I was like, I'm like feeling all the things, and I'm sitting in it, and I'm letting it go. And she calls me, and she's like, okay, like what's happening, and like helped me unpack how I'm feeling, and it was like I'm trying to cram all of these things in one day, and this is how I explained it. I was like, Wednesdays were typically podcasting days. That's what we did. And then they turned into like my only day off. And now all of these other things are piling up, and I'm trying to balance it all and fit it into one day, which is affecting our podcasting because obviously I can't balance all the things. But I was like, that filled my cup. Lately, Wednesdays feel like, you know, when you put a cup in the sink and you crank the water on, and like the water's just splashing out of the cup and none of it staying in there because it's like full force, and then you shut the water off and the cup's just empty.
I pray for water pressure
That's
like that.
basically how I describe it.
Yes,
Like
is-
that.
yeah, no,
That's
I get it.
how.
I get it.
That's
So,
how it feels.
so you know, you're. It sounds like you're going through, you know, just kind of the growth mode, right? Of how to make it all work, and how to, you know, this is the thing that you want to be doing. And I think we talked a little bit at the beginning, like,
Yeah.
the universe is going to throw like little things at you and be like, "Are you sure that's what you want to do?" And you know, you've got to kind of work through that to show the universe that, God, however you want to look at it, right? That yeah, this is the thing I want to be doing. So stop fucking with it. Right?
It's like the little squirrel in the tree, like throwing nuts at
That's
you,
it.
and you're like, "Where's this coming from?"
100%, 100%. So you know, look, parenting, I think, is one of those things where, again, yeah, we want them. It's a challenge. We want them to want us sometimes more than they actually need us, and even that's a challenge, right? As we're growing, because they're like, what do you mean you don't need me anymore? So, and again, that just caused you to kind of go back into the who am I identity questions. What am I attached to, right? Just another opportunity to look at your attachments of yourself and all that other egotistical shit that I don't know how to talk to. So all good there. But as so you look, you guys are figuring it all out, right? And you're working it through. So what's on the rise for Align and Rise? What are you guys looking to do with this platform?
Oh man. Well, here's the thing. I think that the really cool thing about doing something that you don't know is that you constantly get to learn. And so, I mean, we've taken so many pivots, we've turned so many times already. Like, we don't know exactly where we're headed, but we have some ideas, we have some thoughts about where we're going, but it feels like every time that we do something, you always have something else that's going to up the ante and up the ante, you know? Like, it's like, you know, when we first started the podcast, and you know, we're learning all these things and doing all these things and recording that we never knew how to do to begin with. So we do those things and we're like, okay, now we're good. And then we're like, we're not interviewing anybody. Obviously, we're just going to do. And then now we started interviewing, and now we're being interviewed. And now we're starting to do TikToks, and now we're starting to do Instagram lives. And so we don't really know, but that's the beauty of just having trust and faith that the universe has your back, and that when you believe that your intuition is always guiding you and that it's never wrong, then you open up freedom and space to constantly pivot and constantly move. And that's kind of, I think, and Tamara can speak for herself in this point, but that's kind of where it feels like we're headed, is just that we're constantly moving, and we're constantly like, this is one moment that, you know, with the block, shall we call it, but it's not even really a block. It's just like, we're there together, we're pointing it out together. She's like, yes, I see this clearly, let's move through it. How can I? And then so she's figuring out like, hey, I just got to free up one more day for myself so I can get these things done, and then I can focus on this, just podcasts on this day, because she wants it. And so, you're talking about, the universe saying, oh, do you want it enough? Well, we want this. It just happens that we are two people and we're both affected because it's ours. I'm not just Align and Rise. It's Tamara and Devin that is Align and Rise. So I feel like then a book that we're reading, The 12-Week Year, he talks about accountability, but he said accountability is never like someone else. You don't get to blame someone else when you don't do something. Accountability is just so that person can help you measure your goals and make sure that you're staying on track, but it's still yours. We have this tainted view of like accountability. That part in this book really, because I think a lot of times people are like, just keep me accountable. And then if you don't, like, if you're not like, hey, did you work out? Hey, did you work out? They're like, oh, you didn't keep me. No. You're accountable for you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help, guide you, but you still have to go push play and you still have to lift the weights. And so that's, how we're getting over any blocks that we come up. This isn't the first time like that, we've headed over a block and then we just take a turn because maybe something maybe is slowing us down so that we could see this thing over here that we're really interested in. And that's kind of, so we're really, I think, just focused on being guided by our own intuition and, call it spirituality, call it whatever. Yeah, that's where, Tamara, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but
I just want to add that I think I started this, like, we had a little women's conference with our book club a couple years ago, and I kind of started this, everything works out exactly as it's supposed to. And it didn't matter what it was. Every time something would happen, we'd feel like there was like a little stone thrown in the way or like a blip in our plan. I would just say that out. And I'm really leaning into that right now. Like all of the things that kind of feel tough and a little bit gray and a little bit like, where are we going? It, like Dev said, it's honestly just leaning in, trusting the process, and just really trusting that everything works out exactly as it's supposed to.
mm-hmm.
Really like Joseph Campbell, Follow Your Bliss kind of thing. You guys are working. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Wait, I've never heard of him, but it sounds great.
Oh my god. That's terrible. I have to boot you now.
Maybe just send me a link.
I mean, I guess I could do that. That doesn't seem as aggressive or anything like that.
Yeah, that might be nicer.
Boo.
Less aggressive.
There's no shock factor there.
That's right.
So
one more thing I do want to add though is,
go ahead.
if that's okay.
Yeah, I get it.
In terms of like where we're heading to is we're just like constantly pivoting and moving, and wherever we're supposed to be is where we're supposed to be. One of our biggest part of our vision, I guess, the biggest part of it is, our dream is to, again, we have no idea what it looks like, but we see ourselves like speaking on stages. We would love to host a conference, like a mindset conference, where we're focusing on like our health and wealth and spiritual, all of the things to do with like this growth journey, and just sharing tips and tricks and coming together with other people that have things that they can offer to serve other people and creating something really big and fun out of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's kind of like before coming on this podcast, you gotta sometimes speak that out loud, right? Because sometimes we hold these dreams in and we're like, oh, I'm not gonna tell anybody, just gonna wait and see if it happens. Not gonna tell anybody. This is what I want though. Speaking it into a corner, but like, speaking some of that stuff out loud to the people that so they know, right? We're like, oh, you know what? I was talking to somebody else that would like to do something similar. How can I connect you guys, right? So I think that, in terms of sharing that type of information, what is your vision? What does that look like for you? And for others that are tuning in, they might, hear your journey and be like, hey, I would like to start a podcast with a friend. And what's that look like? It looks like not knowing what you're doing and then going to do it. Right, which is, I think, that's the first step for a lot of anybody, right? Just making that decision to go ahead and do it. How do you feel? A big part too of all this is now that you feel like you're connected spiritually, how do you feel like you're integrating that like every day? It sounds to me like, what was your mantra earlier, Tamara? Like, this is meant to be.
Everything
Um,
works out exactly
Yeah,
everything
as
works
it's
out,
supposed
everything
to.
right?
happens and works out exactly as
Yeah,
it's supposed to.
yeah. One of the questions I've certainly gotten before is like, without like a definite vision or a plan, is anybody beating you up on that, at all?
About
Or are you,
having a vision or plan.
well, it's being like, well, what's your plan? You mean you don't have a plan? You gotta have a plan. If you don't have anything if you don't have a target, where are you gonna go? Is that anything that's come up in your conversations, or you just, again, following your faith?
Mm, well, here,
I remember Devin and I having this conversation about not having expectations. And that's not like we don't give a shit, no expectations. It's honestly, and Deb can touch more on this because I love how she says it, but basically, like, if we have this narrow path of where we're going, there's so many things we're going to miss out on because we have our blinders on and we're like, this is this one thing that we want. There's so many other things for us. And if we're just like, hey, no expectations, the world is our oyster, we have so many more opportunities to grow and pivot along the way because we see more opportunities.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that was our beginning of our year that we started out with the no expectations. Like I had done Awaken the Giant in book club. I think it was just me and maybe one of the other girls because it's like a massive book by Tony Robbins. And he even says in there, he talks about how, so this like actually ended up playing into our conversation when we started talking about it in January of last year, because I had read the book in November, December. And so it was like, he talks about how like it's good to get like goals. Like you can say, I want to live in a house on the ocean. But he said you don't have to be like, it has to be blue with yellow shutters and it has to look exact. He's like, it doesn't have to be that specific. And then when you do that, it's like so limited to like, it has to look exactly like this or I am not accepting it. And that just doesn't feel good. So like we have decided that this like last year, for example, that our plans are what they are. Like we have this plan to host a conference. Our friend owns she just bought a motel last year and she's working on creating a retreat center. That's happening. Her dreams and ours are aligning. We've talked about it with her. We've discussed it. We've dreamt. We've had these visions, and we've had visions separately, all three of us. And then we share them to each other. We're like, this is what I saw. And this is, like, and so there's this beautiful part that makes me really excited that like I can only dream up of it mostly like what we create unless we sit down very intentionally to dream really, really big, which most of us do not do. We know what we know and we're like, well, I guess, like you could say, well, you don't have a car. You're like, well, I guess I could just like maybe I could just get like a Honda Civic or something. But when you're required to dream big, you're like, you need to ask for like, a McLaren or like a Lamborghini or like we're not. And I think that we get like held down by that. We get held down by the fact that we, it's just like, just down here, just ask for the things down here. But in reality, the universe is like, what do you want? Like, just open it up. And then that thing gets to look like however it wants to look. So if Tamara and I are walking on the path and we see a window open, we can poke our head through. We don't have to commit to fully going in there, but we can like look in and see if it's something that we want. And then if we don't, we just keep going. But we got to see. We got to see what we liked or what we didn't want or, whatever. I think that's the beauty of like spiritual journey. It's the beauty of like where our podcast is headed to this. We know that it's headed like this is practice for us. Like all of the stuff that we're doing, all the podcasting, being on your show, like this is all practice. There was a time when we first started, we were so nervous. I'm sure you can relate to that feeling when you first start a podcast. You're like, it's like a little jittery. And I did not like being in front of cameras. Just ask Mara. I like was not okay with it. And now it doesn't even phase me. You know, so you get used to these things and it's like, okay, so now we know this. Now we get to level up again. What's the next step? And so I think that's the part I'm most excited about is like, I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
So like, as I level up, I get to see the next thing. And then I'm like, okay, like this is exciting. And then we go through some more growth and it's
Let's
kind of
go.
awkward and painful. Yeah, exactly. You know?
Right. No,
Yeah.
like you're saying, you know, when you first start off, right, it's kind of scary, and it's also we ask for the things we think we can get, right? Like, I'll take a Honda. Pretty sure I can get a
Mhm.
fucking Honda. Like,
Yeah.
but you know, then you're like, but what I would really like is a fleet of McLarens, so that I can race
Yes.
one like every different day in different colors, and like
There you go.
you know,
Yes.
and so you know, but we don't we've been taught to you know, kind of just keep our heads down and work hard and blah blah blah
Mhm.
blah blah. There's no fun in that. There's no, and it's hard to imagine yourself being bigger if you're, you know, always grinding it away, right? Something like that along those lines. At any rate, what I
Mhm.
like about the story though too is like, you know, is you're sharing your stories with the other friend who's getting the hotel, building the retreat centers. It's kind of like synchronicity, right? The things that what's the whole idea of like, you know, what you seek
Yeah.
is seeking you type of thing.
Yep. Totally.
So look, man,
Mhm.
I get it, right? No expectations. Here's what we want to do. Here's how we want to feel while we do it. This is how we already feel while we're doing what we're doing. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. If something over here doesn't feel right, if it doesn't align, we can't rise. I'm going to run with that.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yes.
so no, thanks for sharing that. Let me get to a part here that I like to get to, unless there was anything else you wanted to tag on to that last part.
I'm good.
No.
Right.
Actually, I do. Just like a little backstory on like Devin and me and our friend that has the hotel. So the three of us actually started a book club together before we even like really stepped into this like
Mhm.
journey together. And so yeah, we just like had this little vision of like, oh, let's like start reading some books together. And now we're literally planning mindset and spiritual retreats.
World
And I
domination.
think that's pretty cool.
No, I got it.
World domination.
World domination. World domination. I got no. It's great, and the thing that you're seeing is that you're all helping each other to grow, and more than just like a spiritual
Mhm.
sense. And I think that that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So this is a little part that I like to get to in regards to even just this whole podcast space, right? So somebody's tuning into this podcast or they're tuning into your podcast, they're on their spiritual journey. It's like a spiritual speed dating session, right? So like, all right, I'm going to tune in for like 1 hour, 30 minutes or whatever. Is if this podcast, you know, tickles my spiritual fancy, then I'll keep hanging out.
Mhm.
So in that vein, I've actually got 2 bachelorettes. This will be fun. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions related to spirituality. So let's see here. These aren't that great, but we'll run with them. Bachelorette number 1. If you're in a bad mood, do you prefer to be left alone or have someone cheer you up?
Who's bachelorette number 1?
Take a choice.
Mara, you're bachelorette number 1.
Sure. I need to be alone. Definitely alone. Like doing some meditating, doing some deep breathing, going for a walk. Like, please don't talk to me because I might say something I regret.
Fair enough. Bachelorette number 2.
Oh, I get the same question. Okay. I also I'm just trying to think here. I think that initially I definitely need to be left alone, but I do enjoy like a hug after I've processed some things. So then I want someone to like rub my back and give me a hug. But first, yeah, like bath. It's like bath time. It's like bubble bath time or something. Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm here and leave me the hell alone.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to process this.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. This will be the last one here. I like to always ask, do you feel like our current religion is serving us or not? Tamara, that one go to you.
Yep, she's bachelorette number one.
Mm.
Like our current religious
Okay, say that
state.
again. Like,
Well, like it's Christian.
yeah, like,
for example, like Christianity is organized religion serving
Mm,
us or not?
mm,
mm,
okay.
mm.
Ooh, this is a good one.
This
So,
is a good
this is
one.
how I view. This is juicy. This is how I view. So, I am not religious. I am a Christian. And I feel like the difference is in religion, we are not given a choice. Myself, I view myself as like a Christian who has the choice. I get to choose whether I want to have a relationship with God. In our family growing up, we were never forced to go to church. We had the choice. We had the option. If we wanted to, we could. We weren't put in this box of like, these are the rules. And if you do not follow them, like, we're booting you out. And so my experience as a Christian has just been being accepted and loved for exactly who I am in all of my rough moments and my falling and my stumbling and all of those things. I've just been showed love and grace. And so I am showing that love and grace to other people. And Deb touched on that earlier when we were talking, that, and I didn't know that you felt so strongly that love for me. Like, I had no idea. And so clearly in hearing that from Dev, it is serving a purpose for me.
I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
Devin, what about you? You lost your religion, and then
Yeah.
you found it. You found spirituality. So let's talk about what that looked like for you.
So the question is, do I think that religion is what? Serving?
Serving. Is religion serving like us
Mm.
well, or
Ugh. Oh, this is such a hard one because I know people who are amazing that are devout to whatever their faith is.
just for you. This one's just for
Just
you,
for
not for them.
me.
Not for them.
Oh, I don't know how to do that without like I just my brain, the squirrels are running, and I just feel like I need to think about this for like every single person in the world. I myself, no. I do not think that religion is serving us to the highest purpose. I think that I think that how do I want to word this? We're humans, and we all are like I wrote this the other day in one of my posts that we're just like all like balls of childhood trauma, just like walking around in life with these like tainted perceptions that have been delivered to us religiously, politically, society, cultural, everything. And we carry that, and then we think that we're right, and then so we take whatever scripture is that speaks to us or that we're a part of, whatever religious sect that we're a part of or whatever, and we will sometimes use that to condone behavior or to totally alienate and discriminate behavior as well. And you can call me maybe like a naive spiritualist, but I have used this so many times in different discussions when we have discussed things that were like push button topics, like hot button topics. And I'm like, can't we all just get along? I'm like, if we were just balls of energy floating around in space or heaven, we would not be seeing all the things that we see here on this earth. We wouldn't see those things. We would just see light, and we would see energy, and it wouldn't be what we are framing everything to be around down here on earth. Everything is framed around these different things, and we think that we're right. And I think when you think that you're right and you don't leave any open doors to listen to other people, I think that is I don't agree with it. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. And I have been in that space before.
You're
So
saying you're saying religion is a bunch of closed doors? I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
That's okay.
A bunch of closed doors. It can be. I
Right.
think that it very much can be, because people get very stuck. They're like, this is what it says.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, but then
Locked
you
in
talk
on
to
their
someone else.
interpretation
Yes.
of it. I
And
got
so
it.
like that has to do with us just being these balls of childhood trauma, of just like things happening, and we created these perceptions, and that's why we read it that way.
Right.
It doesn't make it true. It's just your truth.
For sure. No, it's I took a course earlier this year, and the terminology was it's a truth, not the truth, right? So the truth according
Love
to
that.
to
Love
you.
that.
Well, ladies, thank you so much. This has been a blast. I appreciate having you on today. Where can people go and find a little bit more Tamara and Devin on the Align and Rise podcast?
Tamara, no, she can throw out her
We're
hands.
both just looking awkwardly.
Well, I'm waiting for you to hear.
So we kind of, I know, we kind of have everything grouped together on our Instagram page, which is align_and_rise. And we have our podcast stuff linked there so you can listen to us. And this is a really good reminder to me. I need to link our TikTok there because we just started some fun little TikToks. And our little highlight is like, can we have 3 minutes of your time? And we just have 3-minute little videos on random topics that we're feeling that we just like pour into. And that is kind of like our thing. So that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Thank you
Thanks
so much
for
being
having
on
us.
today. Yeah.
Really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Spiritual Dope Podcast. Stay connected with us directly through spiritualdope.co. You can also join the discussion on Facebook, Spiritual Dope, and Instagram at spiritual_dope. If you would like to speak with us, send us an email through brandon@spiritualdope.co. And as always, thank you for cultivating your mindset and creating a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking part of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay fully up to date. Until next time, be kind to yourself and trust your intuition.